Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
And we're not talking pool.
Yeah, we're not talking pool. Your pool table, you say? You got trouble right here in River City. Does your boy say words like swell, and so's your old man?
We got trouble. Oh, we got trouble. Right here in River City. Right here in River City. With a capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool. That stands for pool. We've surely got trouble. We surely got trouble. Right here in River City. Right here. Remember the Maine, Plymouth Rock, and the Golden Rule. Our children don't have trouble. Oh, we got trouble. We're in terrible,
Monorail.
terrible trouble.
Yeah. Monorail. Oh, no, it's another one.
Yeah. Bruce?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Usually you go Lionel. I go Bruce. You go Lionel. Bruce. Lionel.
Lionel.
George.
Lionel.
George.
Lionel.
George.
Yeah. So I'm really excited tonight. I am really, really excited about this.
How excited are you?
I am.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
If we're talking cheese balls, I'm a solid 8.5 cheese balls on this one. I could go higher. I just don't know how it's going to go. But right now, the anticipation is pretty high.
8.5 cheese balls. That's an outstanding rating. Hey, that's what we should start using for the Kelly question is cheese balls.
Yeah, I like that. 3.1 cheese balls. That's got merit. What do you think, George?
I think it's got merit.
All right. So all I know about our guest tonight is that his name is Mike Hauk, or Michael. And I first met him about a month ago on our Patreon virtual chat, which we do every Wednesday. So if you're a Patreon member, watch the Facebook page on and on the. Let's see, you guys did something smart there, and I'm completely behind the 8 ball.
What you're trying to say is watch your emails and watch the Facebook page for an announcement saying there'll be an email.
Yeah, every Wednesday night we do Patreon chat from 3 p.m. in the afternoon so that all our friends from across the pond on the British Isles can join in. And we go like 10 hours, and the whole thing is hosted by Chris Costello.
There you go.
So that's what we do. So this is how I met this fella. He was on the Patreon chat about 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and he spoke right up and had great audio. And I said, Mike, I got bad news for you. You're going to be interviewed.
Get ready.
Yeah, get ready. So his name is Mike Hauk. I don't know anything about him. And now, George, could you go get him out of the green room?
Yeah, sure. I'll go get him. Hey, Mike, come on in the studio. We're ready for you.
Okay. I'm coming.
Mind the door. Don't bonk your head. Oh.
Yeah, it's a low door. We put the door low, especially just to irritate Kelly. So, Mike, we first met on, like I said, on the virtual chat about a month ago.
Yeah, that's correct. I've been meaning to kind of sign up or get in on that because I get the email every week, but usually Wednesday there was something going on, or I was busy doing other stuff or whatever. But that night it'd have to be my wife was out of the house doing stuff with her friends. I thought I'll check in with this thing, see what's going on, and it was also kind of an experiment to set up my laptop in the basement, see if I could get it looking over my workbench because we're working with the division trying to get some virtual work sessions together with everybody just to sit and BS and work on stuff with all the virus thing going on. So yeah, it was fun. I've done it a couple of weeks running now.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you last week about tonight's interview, but then I was too busy doing something, and then you were gone.
Yeah, I had to cut it short.
So I'm going to cut right to the chase here. Oh, and by the way, turn your camera off. You're a handsome man.
For my size and circumference, right?
Yeah.
Just click the cam button here.
Yeah, that's it. And that way we have better bandwidth. It doesn't show up the band. So the thing that's got me excited first off is that you spoke up and you had good audio. So that was great. And then I saw on your email address, and then I went from I'm really excited to I'm kind of apprehensive because your email address is ex-Navy-doc something something something, and at something something something. And I'm thinking, wow, are you like an ex-Navy doctor?
Yeah, that's correct. I spent let me think, about 9.5 years active duty, and then I kicked around the reserves a little bit, and then I got too much, and so I hung that up. Yeah, I had a scholarship partway through med school, and paid that back on active duty. A long time ago now. It was 30 some years ago, but yeah. So I am an ex-Navy doc, I guess, technically.
Wow, that's cool. That is cool. That's exciting. And I'm guessing you ended up traveling all over the world doing that.
Oh yeah. I went where they sent me. My wife and I moved, I think it was 7 times in 9 years, something like that.
Holy mackerel.
On active duty. Yeah. We were in, let me think. We went to Cherry Point. Oh, no, I'm sorry. And we went to Pensacola for 6 months. I was in the flight surgeon school. So I was a flight surgeon for a tour. And then went from there to Cherry Point. And my wife was at Cherry Point. I was deployed, gone for 15 out of the 20 some odd months we were there. And then I did a residency in the Navy. So we went to San Diego, the Naval Hospital in San Diego. So I was out there for 4 years. And then when I was done that, I got orders to Iceland. So we spent a year in Iceland. And then when that was done, we came back to the Naval Hospital. Well, it became a branch clinic. They downsized the branch clinic in Newport, Rhode Island. And then from there, I left and went back into civilian life. So, yeah, we bounced around quite a bit.
What's that? What is a flight surgeon?
Well, basically, I was a primary care guy, basically like a family doctor, but I was assigned to a squadron. I was with the Marines. So in the United States military, the Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps gets all its medical personnel from the Navy. So I was assigned to a Marine squadron out of Cherry Point, North Carolina, the Marine Corps Air Station there. So actually, I was assigned to the 2nd Marine Air Wing, and then they parceled all the flight surgeons out to the various squadrons that were coming and going back and forth. So so basically, I took care of the air crew, enlisted guys in the squadron. There's a lot of administrative work. It was a lot of OC health, preventive care type stuff. So we did the flight physicals. There was a lot of admin stuff with that. All the air crew had to have what's called an upchit, and that had to be signed by a medical officer or a flight surgeon that says they were medically able and qualified to fly. They had to have that in their jacket. If they got sick, got a cold, or on any medication for anything, then they'd get a downchit, and that went in their jacket temporarily, and they weren't allowed to fly. So we were sort of their worst enemy because we could keep them from flying, but we were also their best friends because we had the upchits. So we did that. We did what else? There were some programs we had to keep track of. One, the Marine Corps had it's called the Personnel Reliability Program, and that was anybody that handled the special toys, the nuclear weapons and stuff. I was assigned to an A6 squadron, Navy Marine Corps A6 squadron, and that was a nuclear-capable aircraft at the time. So anybody that handled or came in contact with nuclear weapons, the bomb handler guys, the air crew, all those people all had to be in this special medical program, the PRP program. If they were on narcotics, like if they broke a bone or something, or had dental work and they were on narcotics, they had to be temporarily pulled off this PRP program. And when they were done, they put back on it. So a lot of administrative overhead with that. We also work closely with the safety officers in the squadron, making sure hazardous materials were properly stowed. We would give briefs to the air crew during safety stand-downs on different aeromedical issues, barotrauma, that kind of stuff, certain survival things. What else did we do? If there was unfortunately a mishap or something like that, there would be a flight surgeon assigned to the aircraft mishap board. What else did we do?
So you were busy. So you were busy.
It was busy, and not a lot of hands-on medical stuff, though we did take turns in the clinic, just running sick call and that kind of stuff. But there was a lot of administrative stuff behind the scenes. It was a lot of responsibility for a young guy, not too far out of training. I mean, I was the advisor to a Marine Lieutenant Colonel who was a squadron commanding officer, and I was his medical advisor.
So how old would you have been?
Let's see. I was probably 26, 27, 28.
Wow. So that's a ton of responsibility for a young guy.
Yeah. And the cool thing is we got to fly. We got flight pay. So we had to get at least 4 flight hours a month to get our flight pay. So In the A6 squadron, I would fly in the bombardier navigator seat. So I got to drop some practice bombs over Korea and do some different things like that. So it was a cool job. It was a cool job.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like a ton of different facets.
Yeah, I thought about doing that. There was an aerospace medical residency, and I thought about doing that, but I had already deployed once to Japan for 6 months, and then I was in the first Gulf War for 9 months on the ship. And your reward for graduating from the aerospace medical residency program was you got to be the senior medical officer on an aircraft carrier, and you got to deploy with them for 6 months. And my wife said, "Yeah, I don't think you're doing that." So that kind of put the kibosh on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you mind if we just take a break for a second, Mike?
Yeah, sure.
Just me and George and Bruce are just going to huddle up over here in the corner, if you don't mind.
Oh, no.
Okay. Huddle up, boys.
Huddling up.
All right. Are you there, Bruce? Bruce is on mute.
He's on
I'm
mute.
on mute.
Yeah. I wonder how many actual times in the last 6 years you've said that. It's got to be closing in on easily over 500.
Well, here, let's put this a challenge. Let somebody go through all the podcasts and come up with a tally.
Yeah, it's like,
and we'll send him a T-shirt.
Yeah, we'll send him a T-shirt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, figure that out for us, would you? And then we'll send us a T-shirt. Anyways, the point, the question I wanted to ask you guys, or the point I wanted to make is, I think I'm in way over my head already. Should we carry on, or should we just bail? Well,
this is good. I'm kind of disappointed he didn't go for tour on the aircraft carrier, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I was actually kind of excited about that too, and then his wife said no. So
yeah,
all right, okay, on 3 break. Okay, Mike. So, what's your wife's name?
Debbie.
Debbie. Could you tell Debbie we were pretty disappointed she didn't let you go on the aircraft carrier?
Yeah, well, I don't think she's going to care a whole lot about that.
That's a fair answer.
So let's get into the model railroading stuff. Are you a lifelong model railroader?
Oh, yeah, lifelong. One of my earliest memories is my dad's American Flyer going around the 4x8 board at Christmas time underneath the Christmas tree.
Right. So right out of the box, like so many people.
Yeah, right from the get-go. Yep.
And when you were a kid, did you do any modeling, like an HO or anything like that, or what do you remember, say, from the age of 6 to 16?
I remember when I was like 8 years old, I had some Christmas money, and I looked in the paper, and the Montgomery Wards had a sale on a AHM train set, and I remember thinking, this is cool. I have enough money, I could buy this. I think it was like $8. And I thought I could buy this and I could have trains year round. So I did. I spent my Christmas money and bought a AHM set on sale. And boy, did that run like shit. Big.
Hang on. We had the goal horn, and would you like to take it from here, Bruce?
Yes, another minor leaguer gets his contract.
yeah, exactly.
Top shelf with the peanut butter.
Top shelf with the peanut butter. He slipped that one in down there at the bottom with the cereal.
She's out of there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's baseball. You're getting your sports mixed up there, boy.
Yeah,
that's true.
Pay attention.
Yeah. Okay.
The puck was in the stands, right?
Yeah. Hey, Mike, how many times have you listened? How did you find the podcast? How did you actually stumble upon the podcast to begin with?
I've been listening since the beginning. I think since you were a guest on Tom Barbalet's show.
Wow.
Ooh.
Oh.
So you're a lifer.
Well, hey, all right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And do you regret the $5 or $10 you spend every month on Patreon?
No, it's actually money well spent. You guys are like my traveling companions, back and forth to work, and then we take a long trip, and that's when I kind of catch up if I'm behind. And my wife tries to sleep, and I'm listening to you guys, and she'll open one eye, and you're not listening to that Strang guy again, right?
Perfect.
Now that's high quality.
Yeah, that's it. Hi, Debbie. How are you? All right. So, okay, you buy an AHM set, so and it didn't, it ran like poop. And then, and then, so like say from there until 16, did you do any modeling? Did you start to buy Athearn kits? Like what was happening next?
Yeah, I tried to. Of course, I didn't have a lot of money, lawn mowing money and all that kind of stuff. But there was a small hobby shop in my hometown, and I'd buy the occasional Athearn kit, and I'd save up and buy a blue box. And I think I was maybe 12, and my dad, for my birthday, we got the lumber to build like an 8x8 open grid kind of thing. My dad was not really into it, but he's kind of supported, what I was doing. And so when I'd have money, I'd tinker around with that, but it never got very far. And then when I left for college, I tore it down, and my dad turned it into a reloading bench. But there was the goal was always there. My parents got me a subscription to Railroad Model Craftsman when I was, I think, 10. And I was kind of disappointed at the time because I thought, oh, crap, Model Railroaders, that's the magazine. I don't know anything about this Craftsman thing. But luckily, they kept that going every year. That was a Christmas present. And then the V&O story came out in Craftsman. And that just tripped the trigger because I realized, oh, this is cool. Not only can I make the trains, but I can run them. They can, it's like a game. And my brother and I were really into war games. We always had a war game, the paper maps and hexagons and all that kind of stuff. We always had a war game set up. And so coming from a gaming background, it was just really cool that you could build these models and then you could run them and make a game out of it. So those two things always ran kind of currently. But once I saw the V&O story, that was a long-term lifetime goal. I want to have an operating model railroad someday. Somehow I was going to make that happen.
Okay, I got into wargaming. I'm guessing this is back early 60s, 70s. So I'm thinking Avalon Hill Tactics 2 or Gettysburg, something like that.
Yeah, the SPI games.
SPI, all right.
Yeah, Red Star, White Star. We had a couple of those. We had the Avalon Hill games. We had Wooden Ships and Iron Man.
All right.
We had Red Baron. The big one though was Squad Leader. We had always had a Squad Leader game set up on a card table. My brother and I.
I played that with friends in university, and before they got the Advanced Squad Leader.
Yeah. And then I got into Advanced Squad Leader, and then I sold all that about 10, 15 years ago. And then I realized a couple of years ago, it's still in print. So I'm trying to reaccumulate all that stuff. And I don't know if I'll ever play it, but that itch never went away either. But
yeah, I've got like 70 or so sitting in storage somewhere right now.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, move your microphone not away from your mouth, but maybe just down a bit because occasionally we pick up your breathing. If you can avoid breathing, that would be great.
Okay.
Silence.
Yeah.
If you hear a thud, just tell me to breathe again.
Yeah. Well, you're a doctor, so you should be able to figure it out.
Believe me, Mike, we are not qualified.
We are not qualified. Yeah, we're not really qualified for anything here. Now I'm really excited, guys, because I Googled in Michael Hauk Model Railroad, actually Mike Hauk Model Railroad, HAUK, and up came the Susquehanna and New York Railroad, and the URL is S as in Susquehanna, N as in New York, or NY as in New York, RR, SNYRR.com. And he's got a really cool website and everything. And I've seen this website before, and I've thought, man, I should track that guy down someday. It was on my list of we have now reduced the list from 16,132 to 16,131 people we want to talk to. How cool is that? You got a great website. We got lots to talk about.
It's a good website.
Yeah, we got.
I appreciate that.
We got lots and lots to talk about. Okay, so when you went to college, was it like the kind of the girls and cars in college, and you kind of forgot about model railroading at that point?
Yeah, well, I was always on the back burner, but yeah, I didn't have the time nor the money, trying to get keep my studies up so I could get, into professional school. And then there was zero time, when I was in med school for any of that. I mean, it was always there, but it was just dormant. And then, but when I met my wife, one of our first trips before we got married was up to Steamtown. So we stayed up there and rode the steam train. And then she realized that she married this crazy guy that liked trains, but she's been a good sport about it. So it's always been there. Well, actually, when I was deployed to Japan, she came over for a month, and for my birthday, she went to the MWR, the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation people. They had a little excursion up in the hills of Japan on a narrow gauge steam layout. So railroad. So she surprised me with tickets for my birthday. So we took a weekend and rode a Japanese narrow gauge steam railroad. So
all right,
yeah, she's been very supportive. She's a good sport.
Let's slow that down just a bit. You went where in Japan? Tell us a little slower.
when I was a flight surgeon, the squadron I was assigned to, we were deployed on rotation for 6 months to Japan. So we were land based out of Iwakuni, Japan. There's a Marine Corps air station in Japan. So I was there for 6 months with the squadron. And then from there, we did exercises in Australia. So we were in Western Australia for a couple of weeks. We went to the Philippines for a couple of weeks. We were in Korea back and forth all the time. So got to see part of the parties.
But what was the narrow gauge railroad? You kind of said that fast. What was it called?
Oh, it was a Japanese narrow gauge railroad. I think they ran it as kind of a historical thing. It was a steam engine, but it was meter gauge, I think. And man, that's over 30 years ago. But it went from,
what was it called?
I forget what it was called, but it went to a town called Suwano, like
okay.
TSUWANO, something like that.
Okay. Well, somebody will know. And then what they should do is they should click on the Moderately Agitated Male Boy's face on the website and send us an email about it, because somebody will know. So that sounds pretty cool. So, all right. So, okay. So you get out of so I'm going to ask you this question early on. I don't always ask this question early on, but I'm going to. And George, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in.
Absolutely.
What are you working on, George?
Nothing. I'm focusing on this right now.
Attaboy.
I put my work down. I was working on something before we started, but I'll pick it up when we're done.
Okay. George, you could move your microphone just a tad closer to your mouth. Just a tad.
How's that?
That's perfect. The dulcet tones of George the Wonder Boy.
Hey.
Let me ask you this question, Mike. Can I call you Mike?
Yeah, sure. I've been called worse.
Okay. Can I call you Doc? I have this. I don't know why, but something's wrong with me. Every doctor I ever meet, I just have this thing. I want to call him Doc. I think it's the coolest nickname you can have, because being a doctor is such a you have to devote your life to it. So I think it's very cool.
Can I just add a disclaimer here, Lionel, before you continue?
Yeah.
Seth Gardner, don't take it personally.
Sure. Oh well, I call him.
Because we call Seth Doc all the time too.
I call him Doc. I call my doctors Doc.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know a lot of docs. What do you think it is? Because you're a classic. You're. Can I ask you how old of a gentleman you are?
Yeah, I'm about 59 and a half. I'll be 60 next June.
Okay, you might want to see a doctor.
Oh, the irony in that statement is so good exactly. In this case.
And next time you're combing your hair or shaving, just look in the mirror and say to yourself, how do you look? No, I apologize. Now I've insulted the man, for God's sakes.
What are you doing?
Bruce, you must be still on mute.
No, I'm
Oh, okay.
I'm Googling stuff.
Oh, you're Googling. Mike, what is it about model railroading? Like, you've been doing it forever. You've traveled around the world. You're a doctor. Like, what do you think it is? Not that being a doctor has anything to do with it, but what do you think it is about model railroading? Like, what do you think the thing is that kept you constantly drawn towards it? Any idea?
Well, it's a hard question. You've asked that to other folks, and I try to think of, what is it? What is the answer? I don't know. I think it's a combination of things. I think it's an art form. I had this discussion with a friend of mine, that it's multimedia. It's a creative endeavor, and a well done model railroad invokes an emotional response of some kind. So it's art. It's craftsmanship. It's the historical research. And I think part of it is action at a distance. There's something about turning a knob or pushing a button and having something happen over there with no direct connection.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that's part of it. I used to shoot competitively too, and I think the shooting and archery and that kind of stuff, even bowling, is again an action at a distance. You do something, and then something happens over there, and I think that is fascinating at some level to people. And I think model railroading kind of incorporates that a little bit. You turn a knob and the train goes around a circle. And I think as a kid, you get fascinated by that, and it just never goes away.
Yeah. You guys ought to, when you're on his website, check out his track plan. Go to about the railroad and check out his track plan. It's spectacular. So okay, so you spent what age would you?
Wow.
What age would you? I know, eh?
I'm looking at it right now.
I know exactly. And he's got Tonawanda in there, Irv Weinstein.
Sorry, not to interject. It's just it's really nice.
It's
a fantastic track.
Yeah, and yeah, man, we've stumbled onto it. We've stumbled onto a gem here.
I like that there are multiple turntables.
Yeah, multiple turntables. It's a beauty. So where are you from originally, Mike?
Originally from Sunbury, Pennsylvania, which is north of Harrisburg, below Williamsport. I'm not sure, right along the Susquehanna.
Yeah.
Halfway between Harrisburg. Yeah.
Williamsport is the home of the Little League World Series.
Absolutely, yes, it is. Yep.
And then eventually through your work, you ended up where you are now, just outside of Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yep. I did. I interned here back in the mid '80s at a small hospital in town, and then. When I got out of the Navy, there was a job here, and we liked Erie. It was kind of big enough, much bigger than my small hometown. There was lots going on comparatively, but it was still had a small town feel. There was, you didn't have to drive far out of town, and it got nice and rural, and it was close enough to relatives, but not too close. So we ended up staying here. So we came back here, I guess. Yeah.
And if you drive east about 2 hours, you end up in Buffalo, New York. If you drive west about an hour and a half, you end up in Cleveland, Ohio. If you drive south about 2 hours, you end up in Pittsburgh. So you got 3 NFL teams within a couple hours drive. You got a couple of Major League Baseball teams, a couple of NHL teams. It's actually not a bad spot to live, except for the snow. The snow's a problem.
Well, yeah. We get 4 seasons, good and hard.
Okay. So, all right. So you get you're traveling around the world as an enlisted man and as a Navy doctor, and then you settled down, and then is that when you kind of started getting really serious about the hobby, or?
Right. Yeah. So I did my residency in San Diego in diagnostic radiology. So I'm a radiologist by specialty. And when we ended up in Erie, when we were looking for houses, we were lucky enough to find one that was an extra block high in the basement, because the basement, that was a major consideration when we were looking for housing. So that was always in the back of my mind. And my wife knew that eventually we were going to have a railroad in the basement. That was a goal. So that's when I really got serious. And then I think I started the layout in 2001. But the kids were small, kids were in school, and then they were in soccer, involved in different sports and all that kind of activities. And so I started it, but maybe, there'd be times when 6 months would go by, I wouldn't even touch the thing. But gradually, I kept plugging away. And I finally, I'm trying to remember when I finally put in the golden spike, I think the winter of 13, and was able to have some op sessions. So I think we've had 25 op sessions now since then. And I was a little worried because I had never built a real layout before, and the track plan was my design, and I kind of was real slow as I went around. I had an idea what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure what would fit. So that took a long time, because I would stand down here sometimes for an hour and just scratch my head and scratch my butt and think, okay, what do I do next? But the goal was an operating model railroad that would keep 5 to 6 guys, people engaged for an evening. So when we had that first op session, I was a little worried, but it worked, and it proved the concept. And everybody said, "When are you going to operate again?" So I guess it was a success. It's better to be lucky than good, I guess. But yeah, I've been very happy with it.
And so, what exactly? Give us a quick, brief description of what exactly are you modeling?
Okay. Well, the model is based on the Susquehanna and New York Railroad. It was an old short line that was in north central Pennsylvania, near where we had a hunting camp. And when I was a kid, it was a big deal for me to go to the hunting camp, with my dad, my uncles, and his buddies. And we'd drive by this one little town called Marsh Hill. And I don't know, my dad one time in passing said, "Oh, there used to be a railroad yard over there." Really? And it was all pine trees. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that there used to be this train yard there. And then there's a book by a guy named Caseman called The Story of the Susquehanna, New York. And I saved my lawn mowing money and bought that book. And I was just always interested in it ever since. The other thing was that Tom Tabor, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he did a whole series on the logging railroads of Pennsylvania. And the one title, they're all little kind of paperback books, but the one was Ghost. I think it was Ghost Whistles in the Woods or Ghost Railroads in the Woods or something like that. And he talked about the Susquehanna, New York, and some of the other logging railroads and the abandoned logging towns and ghost towns. And I don't know, at age 12 or 13, ghost story is a cool thing. And I don't know, I just thought it was neat. And in these dark woods, in these mountains, there used to be railroads and towns that were completely gone. And I like the Elmira branch. I thought that was kind of a cool branch of the Pensy. I'm kind of a Pensy man at heart. But I realized when I was doing the track planning and kind of planning the layout in my head, I realized that the Elmira branch, there was not a lot of local switching. And at that time, the early 90s, that was before BLI had all their Pensy locomotives, in plastic. And I thought, I don't want to invest a fortune in brass Pensy steam to make an Elmira branch model. So I thought, well, how about the Susquehanna, New York? Because it's small. I figured one guy could build a railroad that could model it relatively effectively. There was enough going on it that I could keep a small crew entertained. And I just started collecting stuff. That was when eBay came around. I started buying photos and timetables and all kinds of stuff off eBay. I corresponded with a guy named Bill Calaroso who wrote the definitive book on the Pennsylvania Elmira branch. And he had come into a collection of negatives from a brakeman who had worked for the old Susquehanna, New York. And so he used a lot of those photos. And some of those photos were also from a guy named Caseman who wrote that book on the Susquehanna, New York. So I wrote to Bill Calaroso probably 20 years ago. And I said, I'm interested in the Susquehanna, New York. I'd like prints of whatever you have on the Susquehanna, New York. He said, well, geez, I got a whole bunch of them. They're not really cataloged. I said, well, I tell you what, send me whatever you have. So he said, okay, sure. So about every 3-4 months, I get a box from Bill Calaroso with a bunch of prints in it with a little letter. Here's what I've got so far, and here's what I charge you for the prints. And I'd write him a check. And so I gradually got this collection of Susquehanna, New York photos, and then gradually accumulated this stuff of paper and whatnot from eBay and did all this research. And I ended up with this drawer full of stuff. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Somebody else might be interested in this stuff. And if something happens to me, it's in a drawer and no one will know where it is. So I started the website to kind of have an online diary of the layout construction and also to put this stuff that I had collected on the Susquehanna, New York out there in case anybody was interested in it. And the interesting thing is I've gotten correspondence from people who are from that area in Pennsylvania. One lady sent me an email. She said, I saw your entry on Ellington and my husband and I, we owned that farmhouse for a time. And I have some pictures were given to me. And I'm writing a book about Ellington. And so she sent me the copies of the photos she had. And I emailed her back. I said, I'm interested in certain things. And she said, well, the Ellington station, that got turned into a chicken coop. And some of the boards were put into a house here. And it's owned by an old lady. And I wrote back, I said, if that lady ever remodels, let me know what color those old boards are painted, because I didn't know what color the stations were painted. Okay. And this is how this research kind of works out. It's kind of cool. Well, she emailed me back. She said, yeah, the lady, she remodeled her kitchen and those boards, the station must have been painted green and yellow. I was like, wow, there's this gem of information just falling into my lap, because all the photos I have are black and white. I had no idea what color the station was painted. And so you gather these little gems, it's a detective story. And I don't know, I just think it's cool. You uncover this data.
Yeah. And I mean, you've heard me go on and on and on about social media, and there's another perfect example. You create the website, and then somebody you would have been able to get information from, the next thing you know, you're finding out the color of the station just because you created a website.
Right. And then the other thing was up in that area, there's the Barkley Mountain Historical Society, and they started having a little historical festival one day in this little town up there in the middle of nowhere in the mountains called Leroy. And there's a guy named Matt Carl, and he's trying to get a little museum of the coal industry and the timber industry and all that went on up there. And the people up there, they have a lot of pride. It's very rural. They're very hardworking people, but they have a lot of pride in their heritage. Some of those towns and those names of those folks go back to, after the Revolutionary War. So he said, we're having this Barkley Mountain Heritage Festival. I see you have this website in the old Susquehanna, New York. Do you have a display you can put on for our festival if you want to come? I said, well, I don't have anything, but I could put something together. So 2 years ago, I gathered up some stuff and I had my son do a little graphic of a map of the railroad. So I went to the Barkley Mountains Heritage Festival and set up a little display of what I had on the Susquehanna, New York. And I had people coming up to me, not model railroaders, just folks that were from that area. And was like, "Oh, you're the guy with the website. Well, that's great. My grandfather, worked on the railroad, and that's his picture in that one thing on your website. And I never saw that picture before. And I don't know. It was just kind of gratifying to have these people just, appreciate what I had done, just because I didn't want it to be lost and whatnot. So that's been fun. It was another rabbit hole, but another way the hobby has been very gratifying.
That kind of sounds like what Brooks Stover did with the Buffalo Creek and Golly. He got interested in that and found out piles of information on the railroad, and then decided to make it available on his website for others to share what he had found with others. So it's a very similar thing as what you're doing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I got busy with the division and all this other stuff. I haven't updated the website recently, but I'm kind of running out of original material. There's only so much out there, and I put up most of the good photos I have. A lot of the photos I have are of interest to a modeler because in the corner, there's a boxcar or something like that. But as far as composition and overall exposure, they're not that great. So, but every now and then, another gem will appear on eBay, and I'll try to bid on it and grab it so I can put it on the website.
So what year are you modeling then? And where's the Barkley Mountain? What did you call it? The Barkley Mountain? What'd you call the festival?
Barkley Mountain Heritage Day, BARCLAY.
And what town is it in then?
That is in the town of Leroy. Leroy. Yeah, LEROY, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think I've been there, been through there, been near there. I recognize
it's on Route 414 near Towanda.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what year are you modeling?
Mid to late 30s.
Okay.
Because that was when the railroad was torn up in 1942. So there's nothing there after 1942. I've kind of fudged it a little bit just for operating interest. The schedule is more 1920s, and the traffic I run during observation is more 1920s. But the 30s is what I have the most information on, and that seems to work. So.
Yeah,
right. Just making concessions to make it work.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, the goal is an operating model railroad that's entertaining or engaging to operate. So compromises, I have no problem with certain compromises.
It's part of the hobby, right?
No, it is
right,
part of it.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you what kind of locomotives are you like? Where do you find your locomotives? Because steam locomotives aren't necessarily that easy to find for a specific railroad or era.
No, that's fudged a little bit too. So I'm using my main steam locomotives I have two PFM Ma and Pa number 43s. I remotored those with cam motors and put decoders in them. They are very close to a couple of Susquehanna, New York steam engines as far as the running gear. The big feed water heater tank on the front of the smoke box is not matched, but I have a couple extras in boxes that if I get brave someday and I have time, I'm going to try to brass bash those into more accurate Susquehanna, New York locomotives. But I use those because the mechanisms are really good and the center drivers are blind. And so they run really well with a can motor in them.
And what kind of DCC system do you have?
I'm using CVP.
Okay.
CVP. Okay. Yeah. I haven't heard of one of those come up in a while.
Yeah. A lot of the local guys use Digitrax. But when I was shopping around, I really wasn't interested in any sophisticated detection and signaling. And CVP seemed to me at the time to be the easiest to understand and hook up. So that's what I went with. So.
Well, especially when you're modeling an older prototype like that, it kind of makes sense because you don't need all the block detection and stuff that came later.
Right.
So, why overcomplicate it?
Right, exactly. So, and I do have a couple of Bachmann engines too. I have a Bachmann 440, and I'm using the Bachmann 260s too on a coal train. So yeah, they run pretty well.
Those things.
Yeah, they run pretty well too. So we run timetable and train order. I have working train order signals. I know, Lionel, you're not a huge fan of train order, but we run. It's very relaxed. There's not a lot of paperwork to fill out. I think I did comment on the Facebook one time, about your distaste.
Right.
Timetable train. But I don't know, the guys seem to like it. And I kid these guys, a lot of my friends have they've got their Pensy fans, so they have the fancy, position light signals and all this kind of stuff. And if something glitches out on their Digitrax detection or whatever, I say, if you have these little green and yellow pieces of paper, you really don't need all those fancy colored lights on your layout.
There you go. Exactly.
Read the paper. So,
Well,
Well, the other thing is too, you can do time travel and train order without taking it to the nth degree. But when you're modeling an older prototype, you basically have to do it.
yeah,
So-
and it adds atmosphere, So usually I'm the dispatcher, so I write out all the orders and stuff and hang them, and I have a box here that will set all the train order signals, and I don't know, the guys seem to really like it.
well,
It's
and part of it, a big part of like I know I could go to my buddy Chris Adams' house, Chris Fitness, Mr. Sweater Vest. I could go to his house, and I know I would have fun with his timetable and train order operation because a lot of it is the atmosphere that is presented. Like Chris is more interested in people enjoying his railroad, so I know I would enjoy an operating session at his house because it wouldn't be pressure packed. So, you're allowed to make mistakes, and that's just part of the thing. And I get the same sense probably at your place too. It would probably be an enjoyable experience, just to do it and have fun. And and I think too, also, one of the things you have in common with Chris, and it's not, and size isn't important, but you seem to have a layout that runs for a fair length. And I think that helps with timetable and train order too, because there's distance between stations and things like that. So, and there's room to operate. So I think that's part of it too. I'm sure I know I would have fun at your place.
Well, you have an open invitation. Just give me enough warning. I can get the basement cleaned up. It's a disaster area down here now.
Okay. So when I get to Dunkirk, when I leave Buffalo and I get to or when I get to the statue of the Indian guy there in the Seminole. What is it? Seminole? What is the?
Oh, the Seneca. The Seneca.
Yeah. There's a big Indian chief statue beside the I-90. When I get there, I'll give you a call and say I'll be there in about an hour.
Oh yeah, that'll work. That'll be plenty of time. Plenty of time.
Sounds like a plan.
But no, I got to say it's been very gratifying. The guys, there's a hardcore group of operators here, and one of the guys, a couple of guys who come from Ohio, from the Cleveland area, and the one guy, he loved small steam. He loved the era that I was doing, and he was one of the last guys to always leave. And his name was John Webster, and he would always the last words he would say before he headed up the stairs was, "Thank you very much for letting us play with your trains," and he'd have a big grin. And he passed away about not quite a year ago, unfortunately. And I was at his memorial service, and his longtime girlfriend said, "Oh, John was always so excited to go to your railroad. He just loved it so much." And I was very touched by that, because there are very few human endeavors where you get to bring that sort of simple joy to another human being. And it's just very gratifying. And it's unfortunately passed away, but it was just gratifying to know that you could make someone happy that way, in a simple way. So the railroad went from just this project that I have for myself in the basement to, something more than that, because people enjoy it. And that was completely unexpected, because when when you're a kid and you're a young guy, it's like, oh, it's about the nuts and bolts and how many rivets does this boxcar have and what's the wheel arrangement and how many horsepower does this thing have. But as I've gotten older and got this layout built and been involved in the division, it's the people I've gotten to meet as part of that process that has been an unexpected bonus. So
I don't think we can. I mean, I've been in the hobby, forever, and I don't think we can ever, especially since I started this podcast, I don't think we'll ever realize the impact we have on each other. I think the community of model railroading is just the people, like you say. I'm sure it made you feel very, very good, that his girlfriend said that, and that you brought that much joy to somebody with your effort of building the layout. You can't beat that. The sense of humanality that you get from it, you just can't beat it.
No, absolutely. And there's another story I can tell you that one of the reasons I helped Brad White, who's our superintendent, get the new division off the ground is, back in 2017, 2016, a friend of mine in the neighborhood, he goes to estate sales, and he said, "Hey, there's this estate sale coming up, and the guy's got a lot of train stuff." And I thought, well, yeah, it's probably old Lionel or it's old, Tyco stuff, whatever. But some of the photos were online, so I got on the auction company's thing, and I looked at the photos, and wow, this guy has like all this PFM narrow gauge stuff. He's got Blackstone engines in boxes. He's got Craftsman kits, shelves and shelves of Craftsman kits. Like, who was this guy? So I managed to get off work, and I went to the estate sale with another train buddy of mine here in the division, and we went they were just giving this stuff away. I don't think the auctioneers knew what it was. And somebody said, well, the family just wants that stuff out of the house because they're selling the house that the guy had passed away. And who is this guy? Because we got some huge bargains. And then after I got home, I felt terrible. I thought, geez, we were pawing through this poor guy's stuff. Who was this guy? And it turned out he was a retired Navy dentist. He was in the reserves, huge in the narrow gauge, but nobody knew who he was. And I talked to Brad, our superintendent. He's lived here his whole life and knows most of the model railroaders. And he says, well, Erie is full of these closet model railroaders. No one knows who they are until the estate sale. And I felt terrible about that. I just thought, geez, if I'd have known who this guy was, we could have, we had something in common, trains in the Navy and stuff. And so when Brad wanted to get the division together, I thought, we need to bring these guys, people, not just men, but people together. Just for the fellowship of it. And so that was one of the motivations I got involved in, model railroad politics, as my one friend calls it.
Was your division inactive for a period of time and you got it going again?
It's the remnants. It was the remnants of the old Allegheny Highlands division.
Okay.
There were some issues, and it kind of predated my involvement. But the division became defunct. And then after 9/11, then most of the action, the activity for the Niagara Frontier was centered, up on the Canadian side of the border, and it was tough to get back and forth. So I guess there was a petition when the National Convention was in Cleveland to move the counties of the former Allegheny Highlands Division to Division 5 in the Mid-Central region, and I guess that passed. So they, instead of being headquartered across the border in Canada, now they were headquartered, in the Mid-Central region. And about that time, Brad White, who's our superintendent, like I said, he's been in Erie his entire life, said, let's, they're trying to get this division reconstituted. Are you willing to help me? I said, yeah, sure. He's a good friend of mine. I said, I won't be superintendent, but you need somebody to help you out. I'll help you out. So that's kind of how the ball got rolling. We got, we reincorporated ourselves as Division 12, the Allegheny Western Division of the Mid-Central region. So we incorporate the old counties that were the old Allegheny Highland Division. So we did that late 2017 into 2018. So I'm the assistant superintendent. Brad White's our superintendent, and Dave Ellis is our secretary / treasurer / clerk / chief cook and bottle washer. Dave said, I don't want to be in charge, but he has done a yeoman's job behind the scenes dealing with budgeting and the newsletter and emails, and he's just done a great job. So so that's been fun, but it's another rabbit hole to go down.
Oh yeah, I can appreciate. I was involved with getting the Central Ontario division going again back in the early 90s, because it had been inactive for a bit. So I know well the all the efforts required to do that, and try to get the program going. And then, eventually you want to break and nobody is willing to take over. So it, goes dormant again for some reason or other.
Well, yeah, I think we're locked in for another year and a half. And then I think we have to have elections. So we'll probably all swap hats. And keep going. I mean, we were starting to get some synergy going. There's a model railroad club on the east side of Erie, the Lake Shore Model Railroad Association, I think they are. And so some of those guys decided to join the NMRA, and so they've been coming to division meetings. A couple of our NMRA guys decided to join them, so we had some synergy going, and we're starting to get meetings going and get some programs. And we're going to host the MCR convention next spring, and we had a mini meet last fall just to kind of practice getting ready for the convention. We had some clinics. We had a decent turnout. And then the virus just cut us off at the knees. I mean, it's just been terrible. I mean,
welcome to 2020.
Yeah. I
really
feel terrible. So we've been trying to hold things together, as I was mentioning at the Patreon Zoom meeting the other week, is we've been trying to hold things together with Zoom meetings, but I think the technology is a little bit of a hurdle for some of the guys, and what format? What are we going to do? What clinics are people interested in? And
there's something. If you get a hold of Gordy Robinson on that, because he's got, as you know, he's done the NMRAX and that type of stuff, and he's got some good ideas on how he could help you out, I bet, and in clinicians and stuff that he could put you in touch with to do something. So he's worth a shot getting a hold of him.
Yeah, he'll help you, and definitely. Any help you guys want from the podcast, you want to come on and give a blurb about what you guys are doing, just send me an email and we'll get you on and we'll do whatever we can to help you guys keep moving.
Oh, super. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's coming along. We had another Zoom meeting this past Saturday. I was out of town taking care of some family business, but we had 12 people show up, which was good for us. That was a good turnout for a Zoom meeting. We had a couple guys from a couple adjacent divisions, so that's good. So, yeah, we're
getting there.
We're plugging along. Yep.
Well,
that's all we can do.
And yeah, like, I mean, if you've listened to the show all along, you've heard me moan and groan about the NMRA, but there's no two ways about it. At the grassroots level, the NMRA is a great organization. I mean, it's guys like you and your friends, the guys that you're working with. It's you guys that are making the NMRA what it is and making it worthwhile. Because, like you say, you connect with each other, you form a camaraderie. I mean, you can't beat that stuff. You just can't beat it. And if the NMRA could embrace the technology, like Gordy is trying to do, and come online, I think the NMRA would explode. Because they could come up with a million different ways to encourage people. Like I've always said, my number one thing is, they could make the dues, $19.95 a year, and at that point you could say to everybody, hey, this is the umbrella we live in. You don't get much. You get a membership card, you get access to the website, but come on, guys, we all live under the NMRA umbrella, and I'm sure they could make the thing grow, because there's tons of guys like you and your buddies that are paddling as hard as they can, trying to make the NMRA something worthwhile.
Yeah. I had this discussion with Nick Ozarek. I think you interviewed him a long time ago.
Yeah.
He's a young guy. He's real dynamic. He's real interested in a lot of different things, but he's a young guy. He's just got married. He's on the I think he's on the board of the Friends of the East Broadtop. He's interested in the digital model railroading. He's got his own podcast. So he's got to make a decision. Does he come to a division meeting? Does he go to the East Broadtop meeting? What does he do? And that's analogous to any young guy. We talk about the demographics. 15 years ago, my kids were all playing soccer on the weekends, or they were going here, they were going there. I didn't have time to spend an entire Saturday at a division meeting. So, or maybe spend $70 or $90 or whatever it costs to join the NMRA. So I think it is hard to recruit younger guys. We're glad to have them, but they have other priorities depending on the stage of life they're at. So it's tough. It's tough for them to make a decision, and it's tough to recruit them. But we're there. We do have some younger guys, and we encourage them absolutely to join, and to their level of whatever they can participate. They can make one meeting a quarter. Great. You're welcome. So.
All right. Well, here's $1 million question for you, because you guys are working hard to get the NMRA going again down in that area. So how much of what geographic area does your division encompass?
We cover, I was going to pull up the map here. We cover, I don't have it. We cover Erie County in Pennsylvania, I think Crawford County in Pennsylvania, Warren County in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
As far east as Potter County in Pennsylvania. Then we cover, I think, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, and one other county across the southern tier of New York.
So probably like halfway to Buffalo and
yeah, not quite to Buffalo. There's a new division up there. A guy named Andy McVeigh was getting a division organized up there. They are the newest division. They are the Western New York division, but they are still in the Niagara Frontier region. I think they are working to move that division to either the Mid-Central region or the Northeast region, I believe. Okay. So we go up and we butt up against that division, the new division up around Buffalo.
Wow. Okay, so here's the $1 million question. You've been in the hobby almost 60 years, basically. You're certainly well over 50. Is the hobby growing, dying, shrinking? What's it doing?
If I had to guess, I would say probably in absolute numbers, it's about the same. I'm guessing.
Right.
But I think because of social media and the wider variety of products that are available, not just rolling stock, but scenery and everything else, I think everyone's experience of the hobby is orders of magnitude richer than it was maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good. I see.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. about I think the hobby is richer for everybody because the products available and what they can do. And I would add on top of that, I think we don't realize that the hobby is growing and more people are coming into it simply because of how accessible it has become. I think there is a absolute ton of people under the age of 30 that we have no idea are out there enjoying the hobby and getting ready to enjoy it even more. I think 20, 25 years from now, when those guys are all moved into their, 40s and 50s, I think the hobby is just going to be something that we never imagined.
Yeah, I think you may be right, and I hope you are right.
Yeah.
I hope you're right. Yeah.
So
I see you're involved with the achievement program in your division.
Time out. You've hit a nerve for Bruce. This is going to be a good discussion.
No.
I don't mean a bad way. I mean, it's like
I see he's involved, and I'm interested
exactly
in how he's involved and how they're trying to promote this in the division.
And I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's a fun thing because it's your favorite part of the NMRA, so it's great. Let's have it.
I know some people have no use for it. Others, such as myself, find it useful. So I'm curious as to how you're involved in it, what certificates you may have, and how you're trying to work within your division to promote it.
And Mike, before you answer that question, and I'm interested in your answer too, and George, yours, Bruce, would you not say that the AML Nation, we try to encompass everybody and all their interests, whether you're an AP fan or not an AP fan, or
yes,
I think we try to encompass everybody.
We do.
So I'm excited to have you guys have this discussion.
I would concur.
Mike.
Okay. Well,
carry on.
Okay. Let's first ask, how did you get interested in it and how you got started in it?
Well, when the division reformed, somebody had to be the AP chairman, and everybody kind of looked around, and I said, "Well, I guess I'll do it." So that's how I got roped
Shrugged
into
your shoulders and said, "Okay."
Yeah. Okay. How bad can that be? But I did kind of get interested in it because it does give a little structure if you want to learn skills. So that was kind of appealing. So I plugged away at it, and I make this point to the guys in the division when it comes up is if you're building a model railroad of any size, keep track of what you're doing because there's a lot of low hanging fruit for the achievement program if you just document what you're doing. It's certainly true in my case. So and the hurdle is filling out the paperwork. Now, some guys are like, I'm not filling out all the paperwork for just these merit badges, and that's okay. That's fine. But if you want to learn a new skill, and we have guys whose skills, they're interested. They're a couple guys are eager to learn these new skills, and I think the achievement program is a way to do that. I encourage it. I don't beat people over the head about it, but if you need help, I'll help you. I am no expert, but it's there as an option if you want to do it. So let's see, I've got the chief dispatcher, I have electrical, I have association volunteer. Let me think. I'm working on author right now. I'm pretty close to that. If Frank will count my website, and I'm trying to get a clarification from him because there's a blurb on the NMRA website that says that personal blogs do not meet the criteria typically. Well, what are those criteria, and how do you meet them? And I haven't gotten an answer back. So I might just...
And yours kind of blurs the border between website and blog because you've got so much information on there.
So I may just put together what I've got. I've got a couple articles. I had one published in RMC in the spring, so that counted a lot of points. I write a few blurbs for the newsletter. Those count. That
was your kit bashing work?
Yep, that was a kit bash. Yep.
Yeah, he was the Dremel in the April 2020. We're talking to the April 2020 RMC Dremel Kit Bashing Award winner,
and it's a nice article.
Well, I appreciate that, but it was again it was a low bar because Otto put a blurb on an issue. I think it was a January issue. We have nothing in the hopper for the Kit Bashing award. That's why we haven't published it. I thought, well, I could do that. So, as soon as I sent a draft to Harry Wong, the associate editor, he came right back and said, "Yeah, we can use this. Give me some photos. Get it together." So, but it was fun. It's always fun to see her.
Yeah.
So I'm working on. I might just bundle all that and send it off to Frank and see if they reject it. They reject it, and then I can ask them, well, how come? Frank Koch, he's the or Koch, I forget how you pronounce it. He is the chief AP guy He's the big Mahath of AP. He's actually in the Mid Central region, but he wears a lot of hats. So I think is he the chief counsel or chief CPA or something like that for the NMRA?
Yeah.
So he's a busy guy. He's got a lot of irons in the fire. So I'm not surprised I haven't got an answer back yet. But also to that end, one of our guys who's on our board, Rob Bennett, he has a YouTube channel. I think he's got like 14,000 subscribers or something like that. And he's got a lot of local railroads on his YouTube channel with layout visits and whatnot. He's got clinics on there that some of the guys have done. And in this new media age, he should absolutely get credit for all that, for having 14,000 subscribers and all these hundreds of hours of video on his YouTube channel. He should get credit for that, I think, as author.
Yeah.
So
now I'm just looking at yours. I'm not sure what documentation you have, but it seems to me that article, if you've got something, you could probably turn that into a virtual clinic for one of the NMRAX things and get some credit.
I thought about that. I got a couple in the can I've done for division. I did a little clinic on introduction to static grass. So that was a PowerPoint, but that was followed by a hands-on. Mm-hmm. And then I did an introduction to timetable and train order for our mini meet, and then that was followed by a hands-on op session here at the railroad, my own railroad. But I could probably modify those or just do the didactic parts, not the hands-on for an online clinic if Cordy was interested. Yeah.
So for your division, are you doing anything particularly? It's hard now with being 2020 and all, but any plans to kind of encourage, say, throw drawings of a simple trackside structure and give a little presentation on how to build it and encourage the members to build that and bring it in for evaluation?
We haven't done that lately. We did do that before the virus. Bill Schaff, he was making wooden buildings out of solid blocks and then just gluing siding material to these blocks. So he did a clinic on that, and he handed everybody out a little bag of blocks. And so that was our homework assignment. The following month, everybody brought back their homework assignment and showed what they had worked on. So that was pretty cool. We haven't tried to do anything like that directly, remotely at this point, but that's a good idea. I'll have to see if we can come up with something like that. We're going to try to do this week on Thursday night. We're going to do a division work session where anybody that's interested can plug into Zoom and hopefully get their computer set up by their workbenches, and we can all just work on something and just shoot the breeze, kind of like the Patreon thing once a week. So we're going to see how that goes. We'll see how many people will try that. But we're just any idea we're throwing out there just to see how it works, where the interest of the division lies, and I don't know. Some things work, some things don't.
Yeah, see what sticks and what doesn't.
Sure.
Hey, George, then speaking of seeing what sticks and seeing what doesn't.
Yes.
You notice once they started talking about the AP program, you notice Bruce wasn't on mute then.
Yes, I noticed that. Considerable attention was being paid to the topic at hand.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he's not on mute. So that's good. Did you finish, Bruce, or do you have more questions? Or?
No, I think it's I always enjoy discussing AP because I think it's a worthwhile program to improve your modeling. It's not a contest like everybody thinks it's be, and some of the nicest guys I've met out there are active in the AP and are master model railroaders, and they're always willing to give time and effort to help you improve your modeling.
And our pal out there in Minnesota just got his MMR.
Thomas Gazer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's also a Union Pacific locomotive engineer, and our friend Lex Parker.
Lex Parker's an MMR, yes.
Couldn't be more helpful. I mean, I think Lex would help you with just about any. He'll answer just about any question.
Sure he will. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. We have one MMR in the division. That's Mr. Dick Bradley. He's been published in the magazines a number of times. He's getting up there in years a little bit. He didn't make it to a lot of meetings before the virus, but he's a great guy. He was on our board for a while, and then that got to be a little too much for him. But I know Dick was here. We had an emergency meeting in our basement one time. Our venue, we meet in the trolley station in Cambridge Springs normally, and there was a mix-up. We didn't have the trolley station, so my wife was out of town. I said, "Well, anybody that wants to follow me home, we can have the meeting in my basement." So we had 20 people down here, but Dick was one of them. And, everybody toured their layout after the meeting was over. And on his way up the steps, Dick, he's a very precise speaker. He said, "You have a very nice model railroad. You are making excellent progress." And I was, I was just over the moon. I was like, "Wow, Dick Bradley's an MMR. He likes my model railroad."
Yeah.
I got more satisfaction from that than I do at work most days. So.
I know that's the thing. I mean, it's fun talking to you, Mike. I mean, I kind of had a feeling because you spoke up and everything, but I mean, that's an excellent point. Like, I talked to Rod Stewart once, and I've talked to him a couple of times, and he said he'd rather be on the cover of Model Railroader than on the cover of Rolling Stone. There's some great satisfaction people get when people enjoy their model railroad. It's just something, I don't know what. It's my great quest with this podcast is to discover the secret of model railroading, because the people that are involved are absolutely hooked. They never leave. Rarely does somebody ever leave the hobby of model railroading. Every time I try to get out, they drag me back in.
Yeah, it is somehow more. It is somehow more than the sum of its parts, and how that happens, I don't know, but it does.
Yeah, what was that, George? What'd you say?
There's no getting out.
There's no getting out.
No getting out.
There's no. Yeah, that's the way it feels. Okay, so tell us some about. Now we don't want to waste any. We don't want to miss out on learning all about like the building and construction of your layout. So, what's the overall size of the layout?
Oh God, I never actually measured it.
The questions will get easier. What is your name, Mike?
Yeah, my name. I guess it's like the long side is the length of the whole house, so that's, I don't know, 75 feet, and
wow,
you can see from the track plan it kind of fills one room and squirts out across the bottom of the steps and around the walls of the finished room down here. 15 by 75, maybe. I don't know. It just fits the space.
Well, next time you're on the podcast, make sure you have the dimensions, because people.
Okay, I'll try to get the square footage and give that to you. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So let's, for argument's sake, let's say it's 75 by 15, and you kind of planned it as you kind of. I mean, it must be a ton of fun to run with that much length down to one wall. I mean, it looks like it's fun. It looks like an operating session would be. Not intense, but a ton. Like, now, you know who you got to get over there. You got to get Chris Adams over there, because he's crazy for timetable and operation. He would love to be over there. And it's not that far to get from Old Saybrook to Erie, Pennsylvania.
Well, and Chris is a steam guy too.
Well, exactly, and he has a Mustang. So I mean,
yeah, it's just a complete package.
So just observe the speed limit, Chris, and you'll be there in no time.
Yeah, there's no cops on 86. He could get across here in 2 or 3 hours, right?
Exactly. Or jump on a Southwest plane, and you might bump into Tracy Boyd, the official flight attendant of the AML network. You never know. So it's roughly 75, but it looks like it'd be just a ton of fun to operate on. Like, how complete is the layout, would you say?
The track work is complete. The wiring is complete. I got the train order signals in. I have a simple phone system so that everybody can OS their trains as they go around. The scenery maybe is 15%, maybe 20% max. I've put a couple of photos on the Facebook page. That is the most scenically finished part of the railroad. I started a big scenery project when the virus hit, and I realized I wasn't going to have any op sessions, because the problem with scenery is if you're doing 1 square foot or you're doing 50 square feet, you got to have the same 100 square feet of crap spread out all over the basement floor.
Yeah.
I hate having to pick stuff up and put it away and then get it back out again. So I've been plugging away at this scenery project for 4 or 5 months now, and it's a disaster down here. But that's what makes it look like a finished layout. Is my wife wants to see. Did you plant any trees tonight? Well, no. Well, why not? You could spend an entire weekend under the layout soldering wires, and when you come back out, my wife would say, "What did you get done? Doesn't look like you did much down here."
Yeah, I know. Right? That was the one thing I found frustrating. That was the most frustrating thing I found about having an operating layout of any size with 5 or 6 or 7 regular operators, is every month when they would come by, you could see them going into the layout room looking to see what was different. and you may have worked on 1 square foot, or you may have done wiring or something, and like there was no really discernible difference, but you'd worked, you had sweated for a month trying to get this particular thing done, and they'd walk in and go, well, what have you done? Anything? It's like, yeah, I have.
Yeah.
So what is the track? Is it flex track and like commercial turnouts? What's the deal on that?
Yeah, it's a mix of microengineering code 83. That's the short section. That's the Pensy Elmira branch. The main line on the rest of the layout is mostly microengineering code 70. The sidings and the passing sidings and industrial sidings are mostly microengineering code 55.
Wow.
Some of it is code 55 and code 70 on the Central Valley tie strips. The turnouts are all frogs from Proto 87 stores on Central Valley tie strips. If I had to do it again, I would use Fast Tracks.
Okay.
Fast Tracks was not around when I was doing the bulk of the turnouts, but a friend of mine has a bunch of Fast Track jigs, and boy, they make nice turnouts.
Okay.
That's how I do it. If I had to do it again, I would use Fast Tracks.
But to be fair, what the Proto 87 stores offers for their track and turnout switch systems, they got some pretty spectacular stuff you can make.
Yeah, it's nice stuff, and there was no way to get a code 55 frog at that time, other than using their little soldered together, frog kit things. So I soldered a bunch of those together, but it runs. I mean, the guy's comment, you don't have much trouble with your track work. I was very anal about putting the track work in. I take a derailment as a personal failing on my part. It's got to run. As Dick Bradley says, the trains must run.
Yeah.
So that is a key thing. The trains must run.
Yeah, that was always my thing too. It was like, what is the point of having it if it doesn't run well?
Right. So I was really particular about that, making sure every frog has power to it. No dead frogs. The wiring and track is as bulletproof as I can possibly make it. That was an absolute standard. Yeah.
So where do you feel like you got your experience of track laying and understanding layout construction before you started?
I just read a lot. Over all those years when I was thinking about building a layout, I built a layout in my head for probably 15 or 20 years, thinking about what I wanted, what did I want to do, what was my goals. I didn't really put it all down on paper, but I kind of had it. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted a larger layout, but a simple layout. I don't like switching puzzles for the sake of switching puzzles. It should be a problem that you can solve multiple ways if you have to spot a car.
Right.
And a fairly open track plan. I think a lot of model railroads try to cram too much in a small space. That Lance Mindheim's book that he came out with last year, The Art of Model Railroading, he talks about having negative space. And I think that's a key point to make a layout look good. You have to have areas of more intense detail and then areas of lesser detail. You have to rest your eye. We were down at a convention a couple of years ago, and I won't say the gentleman's layout because I don't want to sound like I'm a snob or insulting. The guy was a master structure builder, an award-winning structure builder, and he had his layout open. And we toured the layout, and literally every square inch was detailed to the nth degree. Everywhere you looked was an award-winning, highly detailed structure. I mean, they're gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful. But it was exhausting to look at because you wanted to look at it and give credit to all this stuff this guy had done, this detail on every building. And it was not a small layout. You turned a corner around an aisle and, oh, great, here's another 20-foot aisle where every square inch is covered with highly detailed award-winning structures. It was exhausting to look at because you wanted to do justice to it by looking at it and appreciating it. And there was no place to kind of take a break. It's just every square inch had something in it. And it was a showcase for his talents as a structure builder. Don't get me wrong, but that is not that's not to my taste. I want to have some areas that are just sort of open, some fields and that kind of stuff where you can rest your eye. I really took the Mindheim book to heart that some of the concepts of art and composition should be applied to a model railroad to help make it successful. I think.
And for anybody to listen to this, that book is certainly well worth of the $25 or $30, whatever it is, to buy that book. It is a great book on Lance's sort of philosophy of how he approaches building model railroads, and it is a great book.
Yeah, I think it's an underrated book. I did a review, I think, on my website, and I adapted that and put it in our newsletter, that I didn't think it would be a successful book because he is not an advocate of, he's an advocate of less is more. And there was not a lot of, hey, that's a cool structure kit, where can I buy that? Whereas the magazines are trying to ultimately please advertisers and sell product. And Lance Mindheim had the opposite philosophy. Less is more. You don't need all this stuff everywhere all the time. And I thought it was an important book that people should read, but I thought it would be kind of underappreciated for that reason.
Yeah, Lance's, what we're talking about, Lance's other books he's got on shelf layout design and operation construction are worth taking a look at if you're buying into the less is more theory, which I think a lot of people are doing because they have space restrictions and they have limited time and limited resources for putting a huge model railroad together. But Lance is Google him and get on his website, and I think it's shelf layouts or shelfrailroads.com, something like that. But he's got a blog that goes through what he does. He's a big pusher of obviously shelf layouts, but manageable size shelf layouts that you look at him. His talents for scenery stuff are absolutely fantastic. As you look at some of his photographs in the Art of Model Railroading book, and you're thinking, all right, is that real or is that model? He is that good. But his overall concept and approach is certainly philosophy worth buying into.
Absolutely. Yep. It is a great book. It'd be cool if he offered that book digitally too. I think I'd be, I'm not much on buying regular books anymore, but boy, I'd buy that digitally in a nanosecond just to have it on my computer, just to have it to leaf through it when you wanted to. It's a great book.
It is.
And Lance is, like you say,
he's a great guy.
He's a good guy, and he's incredibly talented. I mean, that's the thing about this hobby. There are so many talented people in this. This book has a 5-star rating on Amazon. So there you go. That's 51 reviews, and it's got a 5-star rating. So that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. So, you say code 70 track, code 55. I mean, do you have, that's pretty cool. 55 is pretty small track. I mean, isn't that basically standard N scale track? Code 55?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And you don't have any trouble once you ballast the track and everything to running the trains on that?
Nope. I try to be, where it is ballasted, I try to be meticulous and keep the ballast out of the flangeways and away from the rail. I did have a little trouble on one siding. I put static grass down the siding, the passing side, I make it look like there were weeds and stuff. And I had to go back over with an eraser because the static grass and it was too close to the rail would actually lift the cars off the rail a little bit, and I lose contact with the rail. So in the future, I'll mask a little flangeway off. I mean, it looks great. I think it really looks great, but there was a little operational issue there when you try to put weeds in the code 55 track.
Yeah, you had to take the HO skill weed whacker to it.
Yeah, that's about right. Actually, I had an old battery powered electric trimmer razor, so I just kind of went down and shaved it off a little bit.
How many locomotives do you have?
Running for an op session. Let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually steam engines for an op session. And a motor car once in a while will run.
Okay.
So I have other ones in boxes that aren't on the layout, but those are the main locomotives.
All DCC?
All DCC. Yep.
I think you were out of the room, Bruce, but it's a CVP is how he operates it.
Okay.
Was that your question?
No, it's DCC.
Oh, yeah, I know, but okay. Well, yeah. I didn't know if you. CVP, is it? I went to their website, and it seems to still be a going concern. What can you describe? I mean, what people know is they know Digitrax, they know NCE. Not a ton of people would know what CVP is. Like, what exactly are we talking about here? What is that system as compared to, say, NCE?
Well, it's basically a basic DCC system. I'm not sure how to answer your question. At the time when I picked it,
Well, time
it
out.
was it was.
Hang on. I'm not sure what my question was, so that's why you're not sure how to answer it.
Well, that's all good. That's all good. No, CVP was the first, I think, DCC system to have radio throttles, even before Digitrax.
Okay.
So that's why I picked it. My goal was to have a walk around kind of plan, and they had a radio system pretty early on. So that's why. And I like the ergonomics of their throttles at the time compared to the Digitrax. I have a Digitrax throttle. Most of the guys I operate with are Digitrax, so I just bought a throttle so I can plug into their system.
Yeah, and if I recall, CVP first came out with their Easy DCC, and you could actually either buy ready to run, to speak, components from them, or you could buy kits from them to build your own. If I remember when they started coming out with, they're one of the first proponents of DCC. If you get back in the issues of NMRA from the 80s and 90s, but you could buy it ready to run and travel, or buy parts to build your own.
Yeah. Oh, talking about layout construction, Lionel, I forgot to mention. Your article, I think, came out in 2002 for the layout supports made out of 4x4s and 2x2s.
Oh, for the L-shaped.
Yeah, that was great because I was trying to do that and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So part of the layout, I made supports like that out of plywood, and they were really, really heavy. Then your article came out that, oh, this is brilliant. So about a third or more of my layout is supported on the walls by your support. So the layout is mostly freestanding. There's only a couple of legs on parts of layout.
So can we go back over that again? You said this is what?
The article you wrote in 2002 about the
yeah, but you used an adjective to describe it. You said, I thought this was.
Oh, what did I say? I don't remember.
My God.
It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, yes.
It's gold, Jerry. It's gold.
Yeah. Can somebody write that? Can somebody write that down for me? He said my idea was brilliant. I remember writing that art. My layout was rock solid, and there was
that is definitely true.
And I didn't want to have legs in the aisles that you could kick, so I came up with just building a very simple L-shaped bracket with a 45-degree angle thing in the middle, and the thing was rock solid. And there we are.
Yeah.
See, it's exactly what you just said about the fella that recently passed away. There you are using my article to build your layout, which is very rewarding for me. So there you go.
Would you look at that?
Yeah, no, they're great. I lag bolted them right to the studs, and it's been rock solid. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I should see if I can find that article and I post it somewhere on the website.
It all comes full circle.
It does come full. That's what's so great about this hobby.
I happen to have that handy on my computer at the office. I can send it to you.
All right, you could do that. But I was thinking I must somewhere have the actual original pictures.
Oh yes. All right, I see. Yeah.
If I could ever find them, let me get right on that.
Okay. Do you want me to take over here while you go look for that?
Yeah. Would you?
They're probably on the shelves behind you there.
Probably. How active? So, in the Erie, Pennsylvania area, how active is model railroading? Sounds like it's pretty active.
Yeah, there's a pretty hardcore group of operators here. For a while, and again, I've only lived here for 20 years, so I'm basically still a new kid on the block. But it used to be East Side and West Side. There were two separate groups of guys. A lot of guys from GE, they kind of had their own thing going on the East Side, and the West Side guys were different. But I think our membership list for the division has 40 some names on it.
Okay.
For the meetings we have down in Cambridge Springs, usually we get a turnout of maybe 15 guys that consistently will show up to the meetings.
Any idea how many, like as you were planning your convention, did you have any idea of how many layouts you could have on a tour? Like the layouts were available for layout tours?
Let me think. Potentially mine, Rob Bennett's. He's got a great layout. Bill Schaaf has a really, really nice layout. Brad just moved, so he hoped to have at least some bench work up by the time of the convention with something running. Another guy named Dale Desser has an operating layout in his basement. So there's probably half a dozen, and then you get up towards Warren and Jamestown. I think there's some guys up there with layouts. Ed Cronin, I think, has a layout. I'm just rattling off names here of layouts that I've seen. There's more than that. Rob actually has toured them and has YouTube tours of some of the layouts that we would probably ask to be incorporated into the tour. So there's probably at least a dozen, maybe, I'm guessing.
Okay, so what is this YouTube channel that you speak of?
It's Rob Bennett, but it's named as the YouTube channel is named after his son. I think if you do a search for, I forget what his son's name is, like Bennett Family Railroad or something like that. Rob Bennett,
right?
And that's another interesting thing is that this guy lives basically 4 long golf drives from my front door. His kids went to in the same school district, but kind of staggered years from my kids. And I didn't know he was there until we were at the Erie Train Show, and met Rob, and now he's a good friend, and he's an outstanding modeler, and he's fast. That's the thing I'm jealous of, is he is fast. He's rebuilt his whole layout in the time it took me to do like 8 square feet of scenery in 6 months.
So we should track him down. Then it is Rob Bennett Model Railroad. If you put it just says Rob Bennett here, so I went to YouTube and put in Rob Bennett Model Railroad, and I got the Bennett Railroad, the extra section, and there's like tons of videos here.
Yeah. So he's done a lot of local railroads. You should look at Rob's railroad is just full. It's just gorgeous. He's an outstanding modeler, especially his scenery. Look for Bill Shop's layout, SCHOPF. He has an anthracite base layout that's just gorgeous too. He's another incredible structure builder. He's scratch built anthracite breakers using basically cardboard and paper laminated to solid wood.
We're going to have to track him down because I don't see layouts on here. I see a ton of videos about, NS at Blairsville and,
Yeah, let me see here if I can find it.
So this must be another channel that he has.
There's a Bennett RR Model Railroad Layout Update channel.
Okay. So what is that one, Bruce?
I'm just doing a little copying and pasting.
Copying and pasting?
Yes. Oh, that's Stephen Bennett. So that must be his son.
Stephen is his son. So his son actually started the YouTube channel, and Rob took it over. So he never changed the name. So it's under Stephen Bennett. That's where all the...
Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, cool.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, I found it.
Yeah, go Bennett RR Model Railroad Layout Update channel. It's Stephen Bennett, and he's only got 17.4 thousand subscribers.
Yeah,
only that's too bad.
If Ron Marsh only had that, he'd be having a conniption fit.
Hi, I'm Ron of Ron's Trains and Things, and if you'd like to see more model railroad tips, tools, and techniques, then be sure and subscribe down below and click that little bell icon so you can catch future videos.
Yeah, but
I think I got 720. The Modeler's Life has 720, but I don't want any YouTube subscribers because I'm like, I don't know why I'm on YouTube. I put it on there because at the behest of other people saying, hey, put it on YouTube as well. Because I know Stephen Atwell. Hey, this is a perfect time. Our buddy Stephen Atwell, who owns Midwest Model Railroad in Independence, Missouri. If you want to get Modeler's Life t-shirts and mugs and hats and all that, and hoodies and all that kind of stuff, you go to Midwest Model Railroad, and then the URL is hang on, don't tell me, let me guess.
Take two.
Yeah, take two. It's MidwestModelRR.com.
There you go.
And you go across the top on the navigation bar and click on AML, and it'll take you to the AML store. And these guys, that online store is growing in leaps and bounds. And after you buy your AML stuff, there's 11,000 items on that website to choose from. So that's a good place to go too. So anyways, Stephen Atwell insists that that's where he listens to the AML podcast is on YouTube. So that's why we're on YouTube. And we have 700 and some odd people that are our subscribers. So we're just about 16,500 short of Stephen Bennett.
Yeah.
Or Rob Bennett, a.k.a. Stephen Bennett.
And about 1 million short of Ron's Trains and Things.
Yeah, exactly. This has been great, Mike. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen. You just seemed like an interesting dude when you spoke up there.
I've got another question for Mike.
I'm
sure.
Sorry. I'm sorry we're out of time.
WAEB, is that your story?
Yes, that is my story.
Okay. It's an interesting story. I've just been reading it while we've been chatting.
Well, there was a lot of family that was...
Time out. Explain to us, what are we talking about here?
Sorry.
Let Michael explain.
Well, okay, explain first.
I've said it. Well, I Googled them, and there's on Classic Trains an article by one Michael Hauk.
I saw it.
I believe the
posted.
phrase is "splain, please."
Is it Hauk? It is Hauk, right? Am I saying
Hauk.
it right? Am I saying
Hauk?
it right?
Okay.
Hauk, but
Hauk,
I've heard
okay.
Hauk.
Am I saying it right? Is it Mike?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
No, so he wrote an article for Classic Trains that now he's going to tell us about this article.
Oh, okay.
So I had a lot of family members who actually worked for the railroad. So my great-great-grandfather on my mom's side was a Pennsy engineman. My grandfather for a time was a Pennsy brakeman. My dad's foster father was a Pennsy engineman. So when my dad, and he always talked about his foster father, W.A.E.B. And there's a thing that the Pennsy engine crew always went by their first initials, W.A., whatever their first initials was. So he always called him W.A., W.A.E.B. And when I started becoming interested in railroads, he would tell me stories. Oh, W.A.E.B., he used to do these things, and he worked for the Pennsy, and he still had his watch, so he gave me his watch and some of these other things. And when my dad passed away, going through all his effects and paper and everything in his office, I found a couple photos of W.A.E.B. when he retired from the Pennsy. He had, over 50 years of service. And basically the railroad just told him not to show up one day. My dad said he had so much seniority, he thought the railroad was afraid of him. So
you can just stop coming now.
Yeah, they just called him on the phone and said, "Yeah, don't bother coming in. You're retired."
Yeah, you've done enough. Thank you.
But anyway, and so it was a good picture of W. And I didn't know him. He passed away when I was 1 or 2 years old. So I had enough information, and so I had this photo, and it's kind of a tribute to my dad, but also to W.A. I wrote this. I don't know, just something inspired me. So I wrote this little short article about W.A.E.B. and submitted it to Classic Trains, and they said, "Yes, we'd love it. You have the photos. We'll publish it." So it was published, I think, in the winter 2009 issue of Classic Trains in the way it was section, I think is what they called it.
And it's also posted on their Classic Trains website. They got posted in April 2017.
Okay.
But it's a nice little story.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, so I have his watch. I have a couple other things from his watch. Still runs. I carried it actually through college. I had it as a pocket watch. I actually used.
Well, that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. You're right. I'm looking at Rob Bennett's channel now, and I'm looking at his layout, and it's spectacular.
Oh, yeah, it's just beautiful. And we were able to bring him over to the dark side of operations. That's why he revamped this whole layout. I love this operations stuff. Because it was originally built as kind of a roundy for his son, just to watch the trains go around, modern stuff. And then once his son left for college, she decided to backdate to the transition era for the Pennsy. And then we got him hooked on operations. So he's been changing that around. And
that's
like I said,
it's fascinating.
He's wicked fat.
I'm sorry I cut you off. That's rude. I should know better as a podcaster. You'd think after 6 years, you'd think I'd even be close to figuring it out. But yeah, that's fascinating. You hear that so many times. You hear that over and over again. And I think it would happen 95% of the time. You bring somebody over to the dark side of operations, and it's like they never look back. They can't get enough of it. They rebuild their layout, whatever the story is. Once people who haven't done operations are introduced to it, they go nuts. They got to have it. It just is what makes building a model railroad make it come to life almost.
Right, exactly. I'll run a train, to test things once I clean the track to get ready for an op session, that kind of thing. But it's just not the same, it's not the same running by yourself compared to when there's 6 guys down here and we're all just kind of BSing and having fun and running trains and, telling stories.
That was the thing with my layout too, is when you talked about track work's got to run, I built my layout to run, have it run flawlessly so that I could be one of the crew. Like I wasn't one of those guys where I, hung out and, watched. I wanted to be one of the guys. I would get a job and I'd want to be one of the guys operating the layout.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't have to babysit it.
Yeah. Yeah. And because it was so fun to do operations. It was just a ton of fun.
Indeed.
So I got one more question I want to ask you and I don't feel bad about it. I'm probably embarrassed to ask you this question. Don't know why, But it was like when I spoke with David Hyde there. He was with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. It's interesting to talk. That's one of the things I love about the podcast is talking to people about what they do for a living. Like I say, our buddy Chris Adams, he's a lawyer for the Connecticut State Legislature, and we got so many people with so many interesting jobs. How does one decide to be a doctor in their younger years?
Well, my dad was a dentist. My grandfather was a dentist in the same small town that I grew up in Sunbury. And I thought I might want to do dentistry. I always liked biology. I liked science, but I was not very good at math. Otherwise, I probably would have gone into engineering. All my college roommates and friends were mostly engineers. But at some point, I wanted to do something different than my old man. I think a lot of young men want to do a little bit different, be different than their old man. So I thought, well, I'll try to go to med school instead. That's the kind of the Mount Everest. If I can climb to the top of that, then I'll have accomplished something. And I didn't know what else to do. I mean, looking back, it's like, boy, would I do this again? I don't know. I mean, it's been a good living. It's been interesting work. Hopefully I've helped a few people along the way. But I thought, well, maybe if I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it. I'd be a history professor. I really liked history. I really loved that. But it was, I kind of, you had a desire to help people, but that, it's actually not what you think. It's not like the TV shows. I don't know. It just, once I started down the path, it was hard to, turn back.
Well, and it doesn't sound.
I thought about giving it up, but I thought, nah, I've come too far. It's too late now. Press on.
Well, and it doesn't sound like you're disappointed with your life. It sounds like you feel like you've been fulfilled with your decision to be a doctor.
Well, like I said, it's been a good career. It's been interesting. Worked with a lot of smart people. But I've been doing it for 30 years. Everything, and any job can become a kind of a grind after a while.
Well, sure.
But I tell any young person that's interested in medicine, okay, but you're going to give up your 20s. Just be aware of that. You're going to give up your 20s because you got to study, you got to work hard, you got to spend a lot of hours plugging away. And if you know that going in and you still want to do it, then go for it. Don't go into it because you want to make a lot of money, because you won't.
Okay.
The best way to get rich is to inherit your dad's business. That's the way to make money.
That seems to be what my son's thinking these days.
Yeah, there you go. But if you want an interesting career that's challenging, you can help people, then go for it. It's not, you don't have to be super, super brilliant. You don't have to be this, brainiac rocket scientist, but you have to be able to keep plugging away day after day after day after day. My sister actually went back to med school. She was a laboratory technician. She had kids. She went through an amicable divorce, but she got divorced and decided she could go back to med school. And I told her, now there's going to come a time when you're in med school that you're going to hit a wall. And nobody told me this, but I'm going to tell you it because I learned this lesson the hard way. Is you're going to hit a wall. And at some point you're going to say, why am I doing this? This is stupid. I am beating my head against the wall. Life sucks. I hate this. Why am I doing this? So when you do that, step back and say, okay, quit looking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because till you do your residency and all that, you're going to have 13 plus years invested. So I said, step back. Don't look down the road 8 years, 9 years. Just tell yourself, what do I need to get through to Friday if you have the weekend off? What do I need to do to get to the next holiday where I can get a 3-day weekend? Just keep your nose down and keep plugging away, and eventually you'll get to the end. And that's what I tell my students. I have med students that rotate with us, and I tell them, don't look too far down the road. Just, if this is what you really want to do, just keep your head down, keep plugging away. How do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. Just keep one away, and eventually you'll get to the end of the road. But yeah, I tell them, don't chase the bucks, because it's not a way to get rich. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've made a very good living at it. But
I get you. Yeah, don't do it for the money. Do it because you want to do it.
Right. You have an interesting career. So, yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, I think it does. And you certainly had an interesting career by being part of the Navy. What made you decide to do that? Because they paid for part of your schooling. Is that why you got involved in that?
Partly because my dad was a dental corpsman in the Navy during the Korean War.
Okay.
My uncles were both career Air Force guys. One of my dad's hunting buddies was in World War II. So the military was kind of a thing. My brother went to VMI. He was an Army officer for a while. So I was in the family, and I don't know. I just had a desire to, serve the country, I guess, and become part of something that's bigger than yourself for a while.
Well, it's certainly a noble cause to do
but
that.
Eventually, it wasn't
Absolutely.
the same. After 9 years, it wasn't quite the same Navy either, and you realize that you change, you mature, your attitude changes. It's like, I think it's time for me to go. But looking back on it, it was a good experience. Got to do things that, God, I never thought a small town guy like me would ever be able to do.
Yeah.
A lot of times I was either too scared, too bored, or too homesick to realize what a big adventure I was supposed to be having. But, looking back.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, that was kind of cool. I'm glad it was 30 years ago, not now. But,
So your wife is Debbie and you got kids?
Yep. Got 3 kids. Oldest daughter, she's married. They live down on the eastern shore of Maryland. Our son-in-law, he's a high school chemistry teacher. And my daughter, she's a full-time mom now. So she has our first granddaughter. Well, only grandchild right now, but that's fun, having a granddaughter. So I'm Papa Choo Choo. So that's kind of neat. Our middle daughter's married. Her husband is an agricultural. He works for a seed company in the Midwest. Right now, she got her PharmD pharmacy school. She's finishing her second year in pharmacy residency out in St. Louis. So they're actually spending a year apart while she finishes that training, and then she'll probably move back to Indianapolis. And my son is still in college. He's down at Xavier University in Cincinnati. He is kind of an art and graphics art whiz. He went by himself, age 18, right out of high school. He went to art school in Pasadena, California, lived by himself out there, which I would never have done when I was 18. But he realized that was not going to work out. He didn't want to work as a gig worker out in California. So he decided that wasn't quite what he wanted to do. So he changed his plan. He came back, and he's very happy down at Xavier. He's in graphics arts business major down there. So because he changed majors and switched schools, he's got another year and a half, I think, before he's finished. But no, I'm proud of all my kids. They're each individual, each have individual separate strengths and weaknesses. They're interested in different things. They have different career paths. But they're all great kids. I'm proud of them all.
Do they have names?
Yeah. Rebecca is our oldest. Liz is our middle daughter, and Chris is our son.
Because I'm sure they're all going to listen to this. So now
maybe.
So now you've mentioned them, you see. I bailed you out.
Maybe
there.
Twice.
Yeah.
Chris designed our division logo, actually. He did the division logo, and he did
cool.
The logo for the convention next spring. So, he's just amazing at that.
All right. Well, you should come on here. Let's make a point of sometime in the spring after Christmas. This will probably be broadcast in probably January, February, March, somewhere like that. We try to stay ahead a few months so that we don't have to rush. But also next spring, remind me, send me an email or something, and come on back, and we'll do a thing that we'll release within a week or two about your convention.
Well, it'll be great. Hopefully, with the virus and the state of Pennsylvania, we'll be able to have the convention. So if that happens, I appreciate that. We'll certainly try to do that.
Yeah, and by thing I mean podcast.
Yeah.
I forgot what they're called. All right. So, Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Certainly. Our email address. Please let us know we always like to hear from you. Let us know what you think. You can get us at Modeler's Life, Modelers with 1 L, modeler'slife@gmail.com.
Yeah. Why do you think all those other guys like Kelly and Hardpart and all those other guys, why do they feel like they've got to explain 1 L and 2 L's?
I have no idea.
I don't know. We got into their heads. That's weird.
Yeah, it is, exactly. Certainly got nothing to do with me. Don't try to...
No, not at all.
Don't pin it on me.
Nope.
We have a website, modelerslife.com. If you go there, you'll see a picture of the moderately agitated mail boy in a particularly agitated state. And if you click right on that picture, you don't even need to know the address. All you got to do is it'll automatically send an email. All you got to do is fill out the text and tell us what you want to tell us. And we told you about our merch shop. That's what the kids say. They call it merch.
The merch.
Yeah, the merch. And we have a merch shop at Midwest Model Railroad, which is midwestmodelrr.com.
And don't forget the website has link to our Patreon and also
Yes.
Libsyn, and where
All the
places
cool
you can-
stuff.
all the stuff where you can download our podcast.
The
Yeah.
crew page. You can see all our supporting cast.
And we have a Patreon member right here who's that you feel like the 16 cents a day is well worth the trouble, do you, Mike?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Hey,
Exactly.
and Mike, have you requested the legs picture yet?
I have not.
Good boy.
Yeah. It is the greatest single picture on the internet, because at some point that guy looked at himself in the mirror and went, "Yeah, that works." And then he's parading around Disney World like he's in his right mind. So Mike, I'm assuming without any hesitation, you're going to be able to handle the end without any problem whatsoever.
I hope so. I've been looking forward to this moment for 3 weeks.
There you go. All right.
Well, hey, all right.
Hey, Mike,
Yes, sir.
you need a life, buddy.
That's what my wife said.
Mine too.
Well, great. No, great. Come on. That's the beauty of a Modeler's Life podcast. You can have a life and still enjoy the podcast.
Exactly. Actually, my wife gets very excited when I tell her I'm doing a podcast. She's like, "Oh, it sounds like it's going to be fun." I'm like, "It's always fun."
Yeah.
She just knows you're out of her hair for a couple hours.
Well, if you're
Whatever floats your boat.
if you're a flight attendant, you can be listening to it while you're flying along. If you're a doctor, you can be listening to it while you're operating on somebody's heart. If you're or if you're just driving to work as a doctor too, you can listen to it.
That might be the safer way.
Yeah, it's probably the way to go.
Or if you're a truck driver, let's not forget all our truck drivers.
That's
Like
right.
truck
If
drivers.
we got our truck driving buddies, all those guys out there, they can listen to it while they're driving along. If you're a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer, you can listen to it.
If you're a hospital worker, like little Mike on his way to work, stop
Little
now,
Mike,
take a picture.
Yeah, Mike, stop right now. And this is the Mike Hauk episode. How do you say it?
Hauk.
Hauk. Mike Hauk. This is you got to take a picture, little Mike, because you guys are both in the same industry. You can enjoy it. If you're a locomotive engineer on your way to work or on your way home from work, you can listen to it. It fits in with just about anything.
If you're somebody who makes turbine engines for Pratt & Whitney.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
And then single-handedly installs them on
Yeah.
Airbus A320s.
with 3 bolts.
Yeah, with 3 bolts. Hey, or if you're a guy that if you're a guy that lives in Septiel and has a beautiful O-scale layout, and you're working on your layout, you can listen to it, and you happen to be a locomotive engineer for the Quebec, North Shore, and Labrador. There's a million people that can listen to it, and you can still have a life.
It's all the AML Nation.
Exactly. Well, Mike, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
Happy rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of a Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.